Did you know that most audiences are far more likely to forgive low-quality picture than they are low-quality audio? In this video, I'd like to outline 4 steps to ensure a smooth listening experience for your audience. First, let's talk about room tone. Room tone is the recorded presence of a space with no dialogue spoken. It's used to fill in the gaps between dialogue and the edit, so there are no dropouts in presence. For example, on these videos, I simply stop talking for a few seconds while recording with the same mic and in the same space, and I use those little bits of tone to cover any gaps in my edit or to cover breaths that I want to cut out. You can see how I utilize room tone here and here in my sequence. Now, the louder the presence of a scene, the more critical room tone is. For documentary and narrative work, a good sound person will record room tone for each scene and provide the clips to the editor. And for times when you don't have room tone, you can sometimes create your own by finding quiet portions of the recorded dialogue and using a couple seconds here and there of silence to fill in the gaps. Now that you don't have any major gaps in your room presence, it's time to set levels. The old saying, mix with your ears and not with your eyes, applies here. That simply means make sure you're using your ears when it comes to levels, and be sure you're listening on the most accurate speakers or headphones you have access to. That said, it's always helpful to have some guidelines as a starting point. With the dialogue track soloed, let's watch our audio meter. Try and have the voiceover peak between -6 and -3 dB. Saying that you need 10,000 hours of experience before you start your editing business, that looked pretty good. Let's try and have the sound effects peak between -15 and -10 dB. Okay, that was a little quiet. I think it peaked at around -24. I'm going to use a custom hotkey to raise it 1 dB at a time around 10 dB. Let's check it out again. Okay, let's keep that there. Finally, let's solo the music. This green clip here is sort of a hybrid in that I'm using it as a sound effect, but it's sort of musical. Keep in mind this is playing at the same time as dialogue, so I'm going to want to mix it significantly lower. This is my main music track down here. Let's check them out. The main music track looked pretty good, but I'm going to lower the volume on the green clip. Again, I'm using a hotkey to lower the volume 1 dB at a time. Let's check it out again. Let's watch a short section with everything turned on. 10,000 hours of practice to achieve mastery in a particular field. Now, I'm not saying that you need 10,000. This should give you a good starting point for audio levels, but don't be afraid to make adjustments based on what you're hearing. And as your projects get more advanced, you're probably going to want to use the pen tool to make very custom adjustments in the music, sound effects, and dialogue. But we'll get into that in another video. One simple way to smooth out your mix is to make sure there are crossfades on all of your audio clips. When an audio clip does not have a crossfade and ends abruptly, you will often hear an audible click or pop. Using crossfades will prevent that, and I have a very simple trick to apply short fades to all of your tracks. Go to your Premiere Pro Preferences panel by clicking on Premiere Pro, Settings, and then Timeline. This panel will pop up. Make sure your audio transition default duration is set to 2 and frames. Click OK. Now, select all of your clips using the hotkey Command-A, and the hotkey in Premiere Pro to apply your default audio transition is Shift plus Command plus D. However, I use this so often that I mapped it to the letter V. So with everything selected, I'm going to hit V, and you will now see that all of my audio has a nice 2-frame crossfade to prevent any unwanted digital pops or clicks. Now, please keep in mind that if you select all and apply your default audio transition, it will overwrite work you've already done. For instance, if you had a long fade on this audio clip and then applied the default transition, it erases that work. So this is something that might be best to do at the beginning of the process before you've done a lot of custom work, or simply deselect all the custom work before you apply the crossfade to everything. The audio track mixer panel in Premiere Pro can be a powerful way to improve your overall mix without having to add effects to individual clips. You'll see mine right here. Open the panel and click this drop down so you can see the spots available for individual effects. For those of you new to audio mixing, just know that any effect you add to track A1, for instance, will affect everything on track A1. In this case, it's my dialogue and the room tone we put in. The track on the end here, called Mix, is a little different. Any effect you add here is going to be applied to your entire mix, meaning every piece of audio on your timeline. Premiere Pro comes with a built-in compressor and limiter. You can find it here, under Amplitude and Compression and Multiband Compressor. I find that applying this to your mix track can give a very pleasing sound. Now that you've added it, double-click it, and I recommend using the preset called Broadcast. But let's make one adjustment. On margin, type in -1 and press Enter. Now you have a multi-band compressor and limiter on your entire mix in just a few clicks. So what's happening here? Well, a compressor makes the loud parts of your mix quieter and then raises the overall volume to compensate. In addition, this plugin has a limiter which stops the audio from clipping. In this case, it hard limits the audio at -1 dB, which is what we put in here. This eliminates any popping or clicking noise that comes from the audio exceeding 0 dB, as shown by your audio meters turning red. These 4 steps are a great baseline, especially when working through the rough cut and review stage with a client. And for certain projects, this may be all you need for delivery. If you got value out of this video, you might enjoy my free editing business kickstart guide, which you can download at the link in the description.